Once upon a time, the only thing that stood between a house full of mice and complete happiness was this big old mean cat. And so one night they all met together and they talked and they discussed and they brainstormed. What is some way that we can make this house safe for us to be? And they voted on this brilliant idea. What if we took a bell and we put it around the cat's neck? And then anytime the cat would come, we would hear the bell ring and we would run and the house would be safe. They all applauded. They loved the idea. They clapped. They raised their hands and shouted. And everybody was excited that this was going to be the new plan. Until one mouse asked, "Now, who's going to put the bell around the cat's neck?" Complete silence is what followed. See, they were all talk and no action when rubber actually met the road. They didn't have the guts to actually do what it needed to put the plan into place. And our story from the narrative lectionary is a lot like that today. Elijah, during the time of King Ahab, is going to Ahab, explaining in the middle of a drought that is already happening because of Ahab's sin, that the God that he is worshiping, the God that started all of this, Baal, is not worth following at all, because when the rubber meets the road, Baal is not a God of action. So he sets it out to prove it to him. He goes into the town that is essentially Baal's territory. There's one of him, and there's I think the number was 450 other prophets for Baal. And so it's one against 450, and it's a hometown advantage for Baal. And he says, look, Baal is the god of thunder and lightning. The bull is the representation of Baal. Let's take a bull and we'll cut it in half. And we'll put it on this fire. And your people will have all day to pray to God, the God of thunder and lightning, to cast lightning down and strike this bull and catch it on fire. And they do. But when the rubber meets the road, Baal was not a god of action. And so it didn't ignite. And they did this all day, praying out over and over again, but nothing ever happened. The scriptures goes on to just make a point of it over and over again, that nothing happened. There was no sound, there was no voice, there was no lightning. No matter what the prophets did, nothing happened. There was no talk. There was no action. There was nothing. So then Elijah went to make it even harder on himself and told them, douse the fire, or the fire pit, because there wasn't a fire yet. He said, douse it, douse the bowl, cover everything. We'll do a big ridge or a moat around the outside of it and let that fill with water. So there's no way that you think that this could just happen by any other means. And they do it. And he prays to God. And the bowl ignites. Because our God is a God of action. And so he was making that distinction for those people, that our God is not no talk and no action, but that their God was really no talk, no action. It was nothing. They were praying to nothing. I think if Elijah looked at the way that we do church today, I think Elijah would think we were back to Baal worship. Because it's like we don't have a lot of faith that God's going to have any kind of action. We almost act as if our God is an all talk, no action kind of God. And I know personally I've struggled with, how do I hear God? And don't get me wrong, I've had moments where I've heard God speak, not audibly, but there's moments where I get an impression where I'm like, that's God. I know that's God. But they're rare and few in between. And I think that's because for the most part, our God is a God of action, not of talking at all. And our church should reflect that. When we hear that our God is the God of the orphan and the widow and the less, the meek, the poor, when we hear that and we're supposed to be the hands and feet of Christ, we should probably be a whole lot more action than talk. And somehow the church has gotten to a place where we're a whole lot of talk and not a whole lot of action. I hope that this week, as we read into this part of the narrative lectionary, that we can bring this home a little bit and remember that we're supposed to have a lot more action as we become the hands and feet of Christ. Hope you enjoyed it. If you like this video, please hit like and subscribe down below. It will actually help my channel out a lot. I am just getting started. So leave a comment below if you have any questions or thoughts, or if you just enjoyed this. Thanks so much.